Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are passing through unprecedented times. The amount and the extent of this threat of the virus that we are facing today looms large over our heads. And every day, so many people this virus and so many people dying as well. Of course, there are a number of questions which do arise vis-a-vis some of the religious aspects. Today, I'll confine myself to actually present before you some of the positive aspects that can be derived from this pandemic. Of course, the devastation is huge, but then again, we must remember that in the wake of every devastation, in times of darkness, even lessons of light can be drawn. In times of death and such carnage and such an epidemic, we have to realize that there are certain positive points also that we can gauge. The first positive point, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have been dividing our human bond and our human fraternity into a number of divisions which relate to geographical boundaries, ethnic boundaries, which relate to linguistic boundaries, and which relate to religious boundaries, and all sorts. And we have forgotten the fact that we are human beings first. And because of the fact that we've forgotten this fundamental aspect, today is a chance. These times provide us with a chance to once again learn and deeply understand this message that humanity comes first. This virus has no boundaries. It does not attack people of a particular lineage or a particular race or a particular color. It is the enemy of every person. It is a signal to us that we have to unite and combine against all forces of evil. And the basic bonding and the basic thing which will bring us together is the bond of humanity. So as human beings, we have to realize that we are one. We should not divide ourselves into various castes, because the Almighty has created us from the progeny of a single pair of human beings, Adam and Eve. So all of us belong to that huge, grand family. We have to care for each other the way we do for our family members. We have to feel for them. We have to do what best we can for them. We have to provide our shoulders so that they can fall back on them. So the first lesson or the first positive aspect of this coronavirus is to once again make us realize that we are human beings. Humanity comes first, and then everything else comes after that. Let's learn this lesson and let's keep it in mind. Inshallah, this virus will go away one day. But let not this lesson learned also vanish. We must always keep this in mind, that our human bonding, our human fraternity should stand undivided vis-a-vis the core human values that all of us commonly profess to. The second common positive aspect that we can draw from this coronavirus is that being confined to our homes mostly in most parts of the world, or in almost all parts of the world, again, one thing that can be learned that we have forgotten over the last maybe 2 decades is that bliss of family life that we were missing so badly. Because of our own routines, because of our own schedules, because of the economic crunch, and a number of other reasons, people living in the same house would get up at different times, would go to sleep at different times, would go to work or schools or their universities at different times, and come back at different times. And at times it would be even difficult to meet each other every day, and it would become a bi-weekly affair or a weekly affair to get together. So here is a chance once again to strengthen that family bond. We need to come closer. We had gone apart, we had tilted apart, but today is an opportunity to once again show our affection and love to one another, because that is the biggest comfort that we have been missing over the past so many years. Let's behave like good sons and good daughters, good fathers and good mothers, good siblings who are able to give their time, and not just time but quality time, they talk to each other, they converse with each other, they have this small talk with each other, they play games with each other. So all this is an opportunity, and this era is, or these particular times are an opportunity to make the best out of this family life. And I can assure you that on the betterment of the family life does depend the betterment of the society that we live in. It is the building block of the society. And if that building block is healthy, we can clearly see how beneficial it can be to the whole society. So the second positive aspect that we have to learn and maybe try to keep it with us when this thing vanishes and inshallah goes away is that family life is so important to us, and it is so very, very crucial to the upbringing of our younger generation, and of course for the adults as well, especially our aging parents. They need our time, they need our company, and if we are able to do that today because of these circumstances, let this not be something which ends when these circumstances end. It should be with us. We should spend time with our family as much as we can. Ladies and gentlemen, the third benefit that we can draw is that one of the things that we all aspire for, or we all look up to, and we really get motivated, is selflessness. We do see selflessness in our society every now and then at various places. We have sporadic instances of selflessness being reported. But look at, in these times, we can see selflessness written large in so many places, in so many areas, in so many countries. Look at our paramedical staff, look at the doctors who are looking after us, and the nurses. They are basically endangering their own lives for us. They also have children, they also have parents, and at times they have very young children. But still, because of this thinking, this urge that maybe they can save some lives, they endanger their own lives. They put their own lives under threat to save us. We see this beautiful sentiment of selflessness found in abundance, and we can draw a lesson. We can receive an inspiration. Only the other day, I think you must have also heard and read about the priest in Italy who was septuagenarian. He was in his 70s, and he actually gave his ventilator away to a youth who had come to the hospital, and he also required a ventilator. And the priest, thinking that he had actually lived his life and the younger person maybe could survive, he just asked the authorities to take away the ventilator from him and fix it on the other younger person. And a while later, the priest died. He gave up his life for that young child so that maybe he could survive a little more. So I think there are so many other tales that we see that it's overwhelming. We get really inspired and motivated, and it is here that our belief in humanity is restored once again. We once again think that human beings are those gems which the Almighty has created. It is just in these times that their beauty and the selflessness that they have, the altruism that they have, really comes out. So the third aspect of this pandemic, this devastation that we are facing, is that we see so many people sacrificing their lives. So it is a great thing that we can remain inspired by this, and we also are able to do our best, and later on also continue this effort and always be reminded that at the pinnacle of all human values stands this value of selflessness. To feel for others, to care for others by even endangering ourselves, even putting ourselves into threat. And this is, of course, something very, very commendable. The fourth aspect, ladies and gentlemen, which is a positive aspect that we can draw from this coronavirus, is that immense feelings of gratitude should envelop us. This is because when we see so many people dying around us or being inflicted with this heinous virus, we find ourselves to be blessed. Although we may be confined, although we may be hampered in our movements, but we are still living. And I think this gratitude which should engulf us, should then go on to think that what best we can do for other people. It's like payback time. It's like doing something for people who are themselves inflicted. So now is the time to spend as much as we can, to raise funds as much as we can, to collect ration as much as we can, and foods and clothing and every other thing which is needed by such people, and send it to them. We have examples of so many outstanding organizations, even governments, doing all this, but huge is the scale of this misery. So we have to do our bit. We have to come out. We have to contribute. So this gratitude that we feel should not just be a feeling. It should translate into action. We must become proactive in doing our best to support humanity at large. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the fifth positive aspect of this virus is that this is a time for soul searching as well. So when our life is restricted, when once we are actually helpless, we are held helpless in our homes, and we think that there is so much to do that we are not being able to do, so let us reevaluate ourselves also. This is a time of self-criticism. This is a time of self-evaluation. This is a time for assessing what maybe we have been doing wrong in our lives. You see, when we are moving about in a circle, when we are discharging our duties, when we are performing normal life functions, we tend to forget a lot of things, and we tend to just lose notice of these things. So when life slows down itself like this, so we get plenty of time to sit and reflect and deliberate on the past and on the life priorities that we have set ourselves. We must contemplate, we must find ourselves that solitude in which we can reflect and see maybe we are doing something wrong. Maybe there's something that needs to be improved in our lives. Maybe there's something that we are doing drastically the other way, other than the right way. So let us also make this a time of soul searching, a time of self-evaluation, a time of self-accountability, and then continue with this process later on, inshallah, as well, when this virus will go away one day. So this is something that we can really learn from this virus. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the sixth positive aspect that we can see is that this is a time in which human creativity is enhanced. We see literature, we see art, we see humanity the sciences of humanity at large, and science itself taking strides. Because when it is crunch time, people are motivated more, they write more, they think more, their creativity really comes out. And this actually is something which becomes a benefit for the society at large. So all is not lost. You can see that so many good poetic lines and so much good humor and sarcasm is being created because of this crunch time. People have got down to devote themselves to find out a solution to this virus, which again is something which brings out that creativity. And when you are in the process of creativity, at times you stumble upon other truths that you were not even after. So we have to draw this and learn this lesson as well, that this crisis time is something which makes the best out of us, which brings the best out of us. It tells us that there is something that can be done. And as I said, people who are literary in their approach, literature comes out of them. People who are scientific in their approach, we find that feats of and marvels of science, they emanate for them. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the seventh positive aspect of this virus is that we have to also realize that our human capacity our human, I would say, life is always adjustable to new routines, which again is something that we have to realize is a blessing from the Almighty. We forget the past, we adjust into a new routine. It might be a very difficult routine. It might be something which really restricts us, and it really is something that discourages us. But it's just a case of few days in which this wonderful human machine readjusts itself. It adapts itself to new circumstances. And this again tells us that life is something in which the Almighty has blessed human beings with tremendous skills and tremendous potentials. He need not become worried because his machine has been tuned for every difficult circumstance in which he or she is put into, and none other by the Almighty. So we have to understand that this tremendous human potential, which in normal circumstances does not come out, it is not there for us to even think of. In these tough circumstances, it does come out, and it does tells us that we as human beings we are susceptible to change. We can easily adjust and change, and this is a big boon from the Almighty. It is just like recovering from a big shock. People who lose their near ones, people who are financially in stress, people who are very sick. When these things go away and good times come, we realize that we had adjusted well to those bad times. So human adjustment to bad times is something, again, which we can learn, and always counsel us that we should not get worried in circumstances, because time is the greatest healer, and if we have that strong God connection as well, we will move on in life, inshallah, and very soon darkness will give way to life and death will give way to life. And ladies and gentlemen, the eighth, I would say, positive aspect that we can derive is something novel that has come to my mind, and that is that for centuries we have been enslaving animals for our own pleasure. We have been confining them to cages. We have been confining them to zoological gardens and to zoos, in which birds which were meant to traverse the sky and deer which were meant to walk about in the huge expanse of the jungle, and fish which were meant to swim across a huge ocean, they have been confined to such small places. So we must learn a lesson and also try to understand that when we ourselves have been confined to our houses, look at the feeling that we are going through. Look at the amount of agony that we are facing. Those poor animals, they have been facing all this for so many centuries. And because they cannot speak for themselves, we are not, at many a time, are not attentive to their needs. And this is an object lesson for us, that when we are confined and we are in anguish, we must realize that as animals, they too, when they are deprived of their natural habitat, they too must be in such anguish. So I wish that we learn this lesson and we set our animals free. Let them soar in the sky. Let them play about in the jungle for which they were made. And it is downright injustice to confine them just because it's a pleasure for us or for our children. So I wish that this positive aspect can be drawn from this virus, and we are able to deal with animal life in a much more kinder way. And ladies and gentlemen, the ninth positive aspect which comes to my mind is that a very similar attitude have we adopted, or maybe we do at times don't think, but we act accordingly, and that is that we are not able to at times understand the plight of our elders who are confined to their homes. They want to get out of their houses, but no one is there to take them out. They are confined, especially the ones who are handicapped, but with a little help, they can go out of the house. So they are people who need our company, who need our help. And it is in these circumstances, and we are confined, maybe we can share the frustration which our elders would be feeling when they are not being able to go out simply because there is no one to ask them to go out. They are not being able to go out because they are dependent on their children to go out. So we have to learn this lesson, that just as every human being has a very natural inclination to go out, these adults who are basically a blessing for all of us and who are found almost in every home, let us feel for them and let us make arrangements for them to go out whenever it is possible and to take them out. And finally, viewers, the last lesson, and it's not the least as well, that we can draw is that human beings, especially in the third world countries, have not been very, very particular about their personal hygiene. and the hygiene of their surroundings. So this coronavirus has once again reminded us that we have to be clean in our surroundings. We have to be clean in our own cells. We have to be clean individuals. Hygiene is something that cannot be sacrificed. It has to be always something that we look up to, that we give a very, very special priority and preference to. And with this cleanliness of the surroundings and cleanliness of our being, our physical being, let us also not remember that we have to be clean in our hearts as well. And the cleanliness of the heart starts with the eye. If the eyes are pure, if they don't take liberty, if we restrain eyes from untoward things that we do watch and actually stare at, is something that is going to contaminate our hearts. So if we are very sensitive about our surroundings and our own personal hygiene because of this virus, we have to understand that there are several viruses in our heads as well, in our eyes as well, in our hearts, that need to be checked all the time. And it's an object lesson once again, that we must realize that this virus is just one virus. There are other viruses which contaminate our eyes, other viruses which adulterate our hearts. And we have to be watchful for them, because just as physical contamination physically contaminates us, these viruses which we cannot see, they spiritually contaminate us. And because a human existence or a human body is an amalgam of a body and a soul brought together, so we have to be equally sensitive towards not only the needs of the body, but also towards the needs of our soul. So, ladies and gentlemen, these were some aspects that have come to my mind, that even in these dark circumstances, when these clouds and these dark clouds are looming large over ourselves, they're hovering above us, we still have a lot of things that we can draw. And just to recount, that the first positive lesson is that humanity is the first bond. The second positive lesson is that it is the time in which we can come closer to our family, something that we were not able to because of various reasons in the past. It is a time to learn selflessness from the various doctors and nurses and paramedical staff, feats of selflessness that emanate from them every now and then, almost every day. The fourth positive aspect is that we have to be grateful to the Almighty. We have to be grateful to God, and this gratitude should manifest itself in helping out others as much as we can. The fifth positive aspect, ladies and gentlemen, is that we should consider this time to be a time of soul searching, time of our self-evaluation, and a time to come closer to the Almighty. And then the sixth positive aspect is that we have to realize that even these times, they nurture creativity into the minds of many people. And this creativity is something which comes out of them, and it makes us really, really happy and beneficial in a number of affairs. And then the seventh positive aspect that we have to realize is that in such crisis times, the human beings are given with this immense quality of readjustment and adaptability. And this is something which we can take along and always be thankful to God that we can survive in all sorts of circumstances. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the eighth positive aspect is that we have to give a lot of thought to what we have been doing over centuries, and we have been enslaving and caging animals of various sorts for our own pleasure. So we have to realize that when we are restricted in our own routines, how badly we feel. So these life forms similarly feel as well, but they are not able to even express themselves. So let us learn this lesson of setting themselves free and coming out of this selfish pleasure of us. The ninth positive aspect that I spoke of that we can draw is that a very similar feeling is overcome by our elders, our people who are living in the houses, who are our grandparents mostly, or even our parents, who are dependent on us in going out. So this is an object lesson that in these times, that if we realize that we are so frustrated when we are not able to go out, how frustrated would our parents and grandparents would feel if they are dependent on someone else and not being able to go out. So let us give this a thought as well. And finally, the 10th and last positive aspect that we can see from this coronavirus is that hygiene element, which had been missing in our lives a lot, especially in the third world countries, how important it is for our physical being, and taking cue from our physical being. And equally important, cleanliness is the cleanliness of the soul, our spiritual self. We have to be clean in that as well. And as I said, the hygiene of the soul starts with the eyes. We have to restrain our eyes from taking undue liberty. And I do hope, inshallah, that this is going to be a temporary phase. It shall go away. We shall come out of it very strong, better than before, more closer to each other, more caring for each other, thinking about each other, and also learning some of the lessons that we have been forgetting over these past years, and which this virus has given us an opportunity to explore and once again adopt. Thank you very much.